Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare
Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Kirtan ki jai. Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
We begin.
Om Jnana Mirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnulambita Bhutto Kanagavadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Kalo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavatararo Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gurudai Pushpavanto Chitra Sambotamando Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Abhaya Sharanasaro Sakaro Paramanando Sundaro Subhadapyo He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhanta Mostate Tapta Kanchan Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwavan Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Shri Guru Vaishnava Guru Parampara ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. So, welcome everyone. Nice to be with you all. We're reading from, discussing the 23rd chapter of the 10th canto, in which Krishna blesses the wives of the Brahmins, the Patnis. And it's worth mentioning, repeating the fact that although we have been following the chronological order of the Bhagavatam in terms of ordering of the chapters, as I mentioned earlier, Sukadeva follows his feelings, his own feelings, his bhava as it manifests in his heart, and so he moves from the Venu Gita, which is really a glorification of the Radha and other of her like heroines, nayikas, and their friends, glorifying Krishna's flute, and in the context of that, of course, they are glorified by Sukadeva Goswami, and they're speaking about obviously their romantic feelings for Krishna, and from there he moves to the Vastraharana Lila, which involves the romantic feelings of the Kumaris, the younger girls whose marriage has not been arranged and so forth. And we hear in that chapter how he marries them. And from there, it flows into this chapter, which is again about romantic feelings of another group of ladies, in this case, the wives of the Brahmins from Mathura. So that is the main subject here. You can feel a little bit how and why the order is like this in the Bhagavatam, coming from the feelings of Sukadeva, moving from one like group of young ladies to another who all have romantic feelings. This is all building up as part of the Bhagavatam, part of the 10th canto, is all building up to the apex of the whole book, which is 5 chapters about the Rasa Leela, of course. And so part of that buildup is, while emphasizing or introducing us to these romantic feelings, right, showcasing them, that we might be attracted to, enter into them and so forth. At the same time, and appropriately so, Sukadeva emphasizes the contrast to that. If this is the higher end, indeed the highest end of spiritual attainment, some form of gopi bhav, and different forms of gopi bhav, then to contrast it with the lower end of the religious spectrum, which it seems to disregard, would be appropriate. And that lower end, of course, is the other part, a significant part of this particular chapter, Blessing to the Wives, which is the showcasing of Brahmins, the higher end of the Varna ashram, abusing it. We see it for what it is, its value unto itself, which is zero from a spiritual point of view, save and except for the fact within Varnashram, given that all the gods and goddesses are worshipped for different purposes and so forth, presiding as they do over different aspects of nature that our senses and whatnot are dependent upon in order to function. In the context of that, Vishnu is also worshipped. So there's a little bit of bhakti in there. And that is what makes the whole thing work, actually, even in terms of karmic results, because all the gods, they're dependent, right, on their ability to bestow blessing on Vishnu. They're only commissioned empowered to one extent or another by him. So Dharma, therefore, essentially the Bhagavatam teaches is that what did you say? Haritoshanam. Samsiddhi. Haritoshanam. The city, perfection of Dharma, Samsiddhi is speaking about Dharma. Samsiddhi Haritoshanam. Toshanam means pleasure. So the pleasure of Hari. This is the essence of, this is the perfection of, this is what Dharma, adherence to Dharma, is really all about. And that's obscured to some extent, right? In the Varnashram, given that there's so many gods and so many goddesses, the fact that they're all aspects of Vishnu and so forth may not be understood by many practitioners of Varnashram. This kind of emphasis, of course, is something that Gaudiya Vaishnavism excels in, placing all the gods. Well, just take, for example, what did Mahaprabhu say when he returned from South India in his tour? He brought 2 books. What were the books? Brahma Samhita and Krishna Karnamrita. From Krishna Karnamrita, he said, here we find the bhav of Gopi Bhav. Means what he's about, Gopi Bhav, Krishna Karnamrita. In the Sukras, how he entered into Gopi Bhav. And in this book, Brahma Samhita is this chapter, the Tattva, the Siddhanta. What is the basic emphasis of the Brahma Samhita? Say it in another way.
Krishna is the source of all.
Say it in another way, as it's said in Brahma Samhita. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adi Purusha. I worship Tamaham, I Aham Bhajami. Worship the original person, means Swami Bhagavan, means Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. And then the different gods, so many different gods, not all of them, but you get an idea. The position of Brahma in relation to Krishna, the position of the Purusha avatars, Mahavishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, in relation to Krishna, and so forth. Ganesha, Mahadev, Shiva, Durga, so on and so forth, right? One of our devotees, Mahabhav, she wrote me, she serves in Bulgaria, and they had some kind of a kirtan program that they were doing, that people were coming to and taking part in, liking, and so on and so forth. But they liked a variety of kirtans, like Ganesh kirtan and Shiva kirtan, and so on and so forth. So she was concerned how should she liked to do that personally, the kirtan, rewarding to her, and it was also attracting people. But she thought, when we have a deity, before the deity, can we continue this, or should we not continue this? I guess they were doing it previously without asking that question. I'm not sure, but anyway, she asked me, having become my disciple. So I told her, I said, well, what you can do is you can close the curtain for the kirtans for Ganesh or Shiva, Durga, and preface the kirtan with the verse, explain the verse briefly from Brahma Samhita. Who is Durga? Who is Shiva? Who is Brahma? How their power is derived from Krishna, and so on and so forth. And then you can sing. Then you introduce them to some Siddhanta as to who's who, right? So a way around. And then you can open the curtain and do Krishna kirtan. So I try to work with the situation. and so Brahma Samhita, there we find the tattva, right? Where were we? So we were talking about Varnashram. Varnashram, of course, there are many gods and goddesses. Yes, many gods and goddesses. Vishnu is one of them. It will be thought in general. But if we understand it properly, then Well, we said the other day, the Varnashram is all about these magical sacrifices and responsibilities, duties to carry out, and so on and so forth. Here, of course, the ritualistic Brahmins, they're performing a 24-day sacrifice. It's a big deal, right? And sacrifice, yajna by Vishnu. Yajna is another name for Vishnu. So as we'll see as we go forward, everything about the ritual is a manifestation of him. But they, of course, they couldn't understand it. So Varnashram here is highlighted. It has a place. It's virtuous. We should have high regard for it. But what is its place in relation to bhakti? And what is the abuse of Varnashram? For that matter, what is the abuse of bhakti also? These things should be understood by us. Here we find the place of Varnashram. We'll see it has its place. It's respectable, worshipable. It comes from God. Right? It's the system. But it has its limitations and it can be abused. So this is introduced into the chapter, right? So this is half the chapter. What's wrong with the Brahmins' wives and what's right about the wives. And this, of course, flows naturally into the Govardhan Lila. And in the Govardhan Lila, we find a further emphasis on exclusive worship of Krishna. Mame kam sharanam brajaham sarvadharman pritya. Forget all these gods, Indra, this one, that one. Worship only exclusively me. So he picks up on half of this chapter in the next chapter, Govardhan Lila, and he's really underscoring this point. We didn't get it in this chapter. We got to get it in the next chapter. The next 4 chapters that deal with the Govardhan Lila. Indra Yagya is dismissed and replaced by Govardhan Puja, and the revelation that Govardhan, different from Krishna himself, right? So exclusive Ananya Bhakti is underscored and contrasted with Varnashram, which is a good thing, but if you have faith in Bhakti's efficacy, then you're not obliged to the Varnashram system. We'll hear a little more about this. But that then, what happens after the 28th chapter when the Govardhan Lila is finished? Where do we go? Then we enter into chapter 29, the beginning of the first of 5 chapters about the Rasa Lila. And what do we find there? There now the full face, if you will, of Parakiya Bhava is showcased in 5 chapters. And the crossing over of Dharma, of Varnashram, is really underscored, right? They left all their dharmic Varnashram responsibilities, even their marriage, even their children, even the milk boiling over on the stove to follow the flute call of Krishna. So you can see how beautiful the revelations and succession in the heart of Sukadeva. So they have an order to them. It's very, very beautiful, different than the chronological order, as I said. So here, anyway, we come today to this one half, which is prefacing the latter half consisting of the blessing to the Brahmanes, the Yagnapatnis. And that is, as we heard in our last discussion, Krishna told the Brahmin, or the cowherd boys, that if you're hungry, or if you think we're hungry, and good reason to think so, we have gone a long distance. We're almost at Mathura, for God's sake. And we didn't bring any lunch. There was some miscommunication. Lunch went somewhere else. We ordered it to take out, we delivered, and it was, of course, deliberately, Krishna did that. So the hunger would come. So that the boys would say, we're hungry, means we think you're hungry. Because if we're hungry, you must be hungry, because we're one. And of course, there's no hunger there, but for the sake of Lila Shakti caused the hunger to manifest. And then they challenged Krishna and Balaram. Hunger is the worst enemy it's very painful, right? To see someone go hungry, or any animal or any plant without water. There's a great suffering for us. Someone will go to bed hungry. That's very, very, very unpleasant to know, especially if they're a devotee, someone in the ashram. So it's just very, very painful. To see them eat, oh, that is and more, especially if you get old like me and you can't eat as much. Watch the younger people eat. I remember we used to go to India twice a year from when we were in Eugene. You didn't go, but I was going twice a year. Kartik time and Gurpurnim, take a few devotees with me. Vrindarani always came. And then when we were on the way back, we have to go, to the airport, and we go past this, what's that place called? Haldiram's. It was a new restaurant at the time. And there she says, stop there. So there were all kinds of pakoras and samosas and so forth, curd pakoras, this kind of samosa, that one. So she said, we need to get some, offer them, take them on a plane, so we have it for the ride. Something I would sit on a plane for so many hours, how much am I going to eat? She's behind a bag like this, and ate it all every time. I really enjoyed it. Of course, she'd share it with the other devotees, but she could eat so many of them. I thought, oh, it's really fascinating, I take great pleasure in that. Tasya prasada. What is it? Chatur vidhashi. We said the other day, Bhagavat prasad. Tasya prasada nagati putupi. Dayam stubam tasya yasya strisandhya. Vande guruji. Prabhupada used to say, don't be shy about two things, kirtan and taking prasad. Don't be shy. You have to, the server has to come and would you like more? And you have to go, no. One hand means yes, more. Two hands, a little more maybe. And you have to go like, no. Okay. So to see the devotees take prasadam and Prabhupada took great joy in this. I think I mentioned this earlier. So Krishna tells them to remedy the situation where there's some Brahmins nearby, they're performing a sacrifice, so there'll be rice that's offered, so forth. So go there and on my behalf, invoking the name of Ram first rather than mine, because he's a Kshatriya, they may give deference to him over me, just a cowherd. Go there and ask them. So they went. Go there, singing our names, and they went performing virtually Sankirtan. Right? And when they got there, they paid their obeisances to the ritual Brahmins. Now, these Brahmins were from Mathura, so they were a little different than the Brahmins that they were accustomed to in Braj, who were all pure devotees of Krishna. But so they had fancier dress, silk outfits, and gold and jewelry, and a little more sophisticated. And so they were a little surprised by them. They bowed down to them. You may read the verse, right? So he said to go there, and they went. And thus instructed, iti adishta bhagavata gatva yat chanta te tatha kritanjali puta vipran dandavat patita bhuvi. So thus instructed, I think you read this verse too, we'll go over it again briefly, by Bhagwan, iti adishta bhagavata. Sukadeva is letting us know Krishna's God. He told him that God told him to do this. The cowherd boys went there and submitted their request. They stood before the Brahmins, hands folded in supplication, and dandavat patita bhuvi. Onto the bhuvi, onto the ground, they fell dandavat, like sticks. So this is concomitant to real kirtan, right? The humility of the devotee. Mahaprabhu emphasized this was his mandate. If you chant with this kind of humility, then very quickly prema will come. This kind of humility, then pride won't get in your way. You'll offer honor to others, expect no honor for yourself, he said. Be tolerant like the tree. We heard about the trees. Heard about the trees. their tolerance. Here we're hearing about the humility of the Gopas, falling, paying Dandavat to who? Great Mahabhagavata, just some Brahmins from Mathura. What is their standing compared to these Gopas? Earlier in Bhagavatam, when the gods who these Brahmins petition in such sacrifices saw Krishna in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, or let's say Sukadev, when Sukadev envisioned them and speaking about them, he said, what kind of, for how long and how many years, what amount of, what did they do to attain this position? It's just unfathomable. They imitate the gods, they make fun of the gods in play and so forth, right? Of course, that's in the Govardhan Leela. We find at the end of the Govardhan Leela, they're making fun of the gods who come and give gifts to Krishna. And they come and take the ornaments and gifts and put them on themselves. And the poor gods fly away thinking, who are these people? So the contrast between these ritual Brahmins, the upper side of Varnashram, arguably, right? The priests of the religious community and so forth, and these associates of Krishna, cowherd associates of Krishna, is huge. And they, the latter, the cowards, they're paying Dandavat pranams to the Brahmanas. What do we learn from this? We should respect all beings. We speak of Brahmins, gods. Yes, they will imitate the gods, and that's another thing, play and so on. But here they're showing all respect to the gods on earth, as they're thought to do, the Brahmins. They're not thinking, you're great devotees, you are only Varnashramis. Therefore, you should do what we say. No, what's being pointed out here is what is the mentality of the real Brajbasi. I mean, I've been to Vrindavan a few times, and more than once been harassed by somebody who says, I'm Brahmin, I'm Brajbasi, Brahmin. You should pay Dandavat to me, and give me some money. I will show you this place, that place, and so on and so forth. I remember being harassed by this one fellow. We had a group of devotees. We were Radhakund, Shyamkund, and it was going on and on like this. And I started to tell him, Trinada peace, and he quoted a few verses for him. He had no ear for it, and insisting that I had to give him a donation in order to have a successful pilgrimage there, because he was born in India, born there as a Brahmin and a Brajbasi and so forth. So fortunately, I had one Indian disciple. I said, I'll give to this one. He's born here too. He didn't like that. So this kind of, what does it mean, that point is to be a Brajbasi, right? It's a consciousness. You can just live on the surface of the Dham and not really be there, and so on. So here they're in the Prakat Leela. Their wives are Mahabhagavatas in progress, so to speak. Now they're meeting with Krishna's cowherd boys, but they're not living in Krishna consciousness, right? And meanwhile, the boys, what humility they're showing. They're not paying obeisance because these are Mahabhagavatas, just because in some way, distant from where they're at, they're nonetheless representing God. Now, at this point, of course, they haven't shown themselves to be misrepresenting in the position of Brahmins in Varnashram, which is a characteristic of Kali Yuga. So, with good faith, the cowherd boys are showing respect to them. And in no uncertain way, he said they're doing dandavats. They do kirtan, and then they're falling and out like a stick. before the Yajna Brahmins, before they even announced why they're there and what they've come for and so forth. Such a nice approach, right? So respectful, humble, and singing the names of Ram and Krishna, Sankirtan. So the contrast between the Sankirtan and the Yajna. What is the eighth offense to the holy name?
I think that is that Sankirtan, chanting Hare Krishna, is equal
To the Brahman's sacrifice, exactly. To the Ashwamedha Yajna, this Yajna, that Yajna. They're doing a similar Yajna like this here. You think that these two have equal efficacy. And the Sankirtan is another Yajna. You could do this one, you could do that one. That is to misunderstand the name and cause offense to the name, right? So there's a big contrast between these two. And on the one side, you have the humility that accompanies the Vaishnav Sankirtan Yajna, as mandated by Mahaprabhu, Trinadapi. The other side, you have this, and also you have the simplicity of Sankirtan. You can do anywhere, Nam Namakari Bahuda, Nija Sarva Shaktis, Tatararpita, Niyamita Smaranena Kali. He has many names, pick one. Many names full of Shakti. Nam Namakari Bahuda, many names, Nija Sarva Shakti. Many names that are empowered by his Swarup Shakti. Names like Radhanath, Gopinath, that speak of Yashodanandana, that speak of him in relation to his devotees, who are the embodiment of the love that he is the object of. The two are one. And different, one and different. But we say Radha and Krishna are one, right? They're one and different, but we worship them as God. That goes with all the associates. That's a fact. So we are all worshipable, just like God. So many names, and he's specifically he's speaking about many names that are filled with his Shakti, internal Shakti, not names like Paramatma, Brahman, Jagadishwar. These are names in relation to the powers of God exhibited in relation to the world. They're secondary names. Mahaprabhu is referring to primary names of God. The power to bring one into the Leela, right? He says there are many. Pick your favorite ones. Nam Namakari Bahudani Disarva Shakti Tatrarpita Niyamiti Smaranena. When you do japa, he says Smaranena, of these names, then there's no restriction for time, place, circumstance, which are all pertinent to the type of yajna that the Brahmins are doing. They don't do it right time, right place, right circumstance, and so on. So it won't work, right? So the simplicity of Sankirtan, in contrast to the complexity of the Brahmin's ritual, all that complexity, all that effort, and a likelihood you may get nothing but false pride out of it. It's possible. Of course, this is the case with them, as we'll see. But in good faith, the cowherd boys go and performing Sankirtan, they pay dandavat to the Brahmins, right? Respectfully, before asking on behalf of Ram and Krishna for some food. Our friends are hungry. Sukadeva says what? Hey Bhumi, notice the cowherd speaking, he's paraphrasing them. Hey Bhumi Deva Shunuta. Oh, God's Bhumi Deva, God's on earth. That's how the Brahmins are thought to be. You have to understand, this is very beautiful. Real Varnashram, real Brahmins are really desirable, really attractive. The Brahmin can live on charity because he's giving only to the society. Prabhupada used to say, the standard for the Brahmin will frighten you, I'll add. We say, well, who are the Brahmins in Varnashram compared to the devotees? Now you have to think, what kind of devotee am I compared to a real Brahmin? In terms of some qualities, like, for example, I'm citing Prabhupada would say, whatever they would do would be for free for the society. And whatever donation they would receive from that, they would spend it before the sun went down and wake up with nothing to start over again, depending on Bhagavan. This is just for Brahmins. They're still very respectable people, the gods on earth. And it's an important function for the society. Most people are concerned with acquisition. That's the trajectory. That's the momentum we have. We're takers. So is there a way to take that could be licensed? And gradually, even in the context of taking and pursuing, or just being carried by the momentum of your karmic implications, that you could, in a gradual way, come out of taking, right? And stop taking and start giving. So you give a little in order to get a lot. Okay. I'll fast for 3 days, I'll do this yogi and so forth, and I'll get a good husband for the rest of my life. Right, so on. So, yeah, you have to. So the Brahmins, in the Varnashram system is very beautiful, but of course it's Kali Yuga, so it's characterized by the corruption of the rabbinical class, which would mean the corruption of the entire system of Varnashram, and Sankirtan comes as the single ritual to uplift everybody, bring them beyond the limitations of caste and the gradual process that would take. If you think it took only yugas for the sages of Dandakaranya or these wives to get where they are, well, that was just by doing bhakti. If you have to start by being perfect in Varnashram, then coming to Gyan, then bhakti. That's why we say bhakti is easy in comparison. You follow? But it's a great goal that we have in mind. So it's not cheap. So he says, anyway, here they say, hey, Bhumi Deva, please listen, O gods on earth. Again, they preside over all the religious functions of the human society, how to marry, how to, the rituals presiding over the deceased, the child birth, even the planning of the children and so forth, all these, every ritual, every function really of human society, to bring that in touch with, to color it with religion, in consideration of God, the gods, who again are empowered by the God, by the Adi Purusha to do what they do. It's a very beautiful system. And the Brahmins, they are like the leaders of this, and selfless, advisors only, expecting nothing for themselves. So the Brahmins were appropriately addressed here. Hey, Bhumi Deva Shinuta, Krishnas Yadesha Kardinaha. They said, oh, earthly gods, we Gopas, we are Krishnasya Desha Karina. Now, it seems like they made a mistake here. Why? What's the mistake?
Is it because Krishna said, like, don't mention Balaram, don't mention me, and they do mention it?
He said, you're right, pretty close. He said, mention Ram's name first, if me at all, yeah. But here they mentioned Krishna's name first. But they say, oh, gods of earth, please hear from us. We are here as servants of Krishna. We are servants of Krishna. We're here executing his service. So it seems like they made a mistake, or what kind of service is that? They didn't do what Krishna told them to do, right? Praptam Janita Badram Vo Gopano Rama Choditan. So what happened, of course, is they thought of Ram, as Krishna said, to say his name, but thinking of coming out of their Sankirtan, now they've got to speak, right? So they're remembering Ram and Krishna's order. So when they think of Ram, they only think of Ram as such a nice devotee of Krishna. That's how they think of. He's the best friend of Krishna. Oh, our first love, Krishna. We want to love him like Ram loves him. And so Krishna's name came out. So they couldn't check it. It was spontaneous. They thought of Ram, and they thought of Ram as the he has two sides, right? He's an object of love, along with Krishna, Kosakiras, but he's also the embodiment of that love that shows the way of loving. We often state that Krishna is Bhagawan who is to be served, and Balaram is the is Bhagawan in the form of a server. So he shows the ideal, sets the example. So that they're thinking of him like this, and so they say Krishna's name. But now they've made a mistake. But there's two things here by which this is compensated for, and that is, they showed respect to the Brahmins, and Praptan Janita Bhadram Vo. They say, oh, may you Brahmins all attain good fortune. Be pleased to attain good fortune. Acknowledge our arrival. We've been sent here. Gopan no Rama Choditam by Ram. So they're saying, well, Krishna's name came out first, but they're saying we were sent here by Ram. Ram told us to come. So they made up for their bhav of getting in the way, apparently, of Krishna's suggestion. Ram is a Kshatriya, Aryasya. He'll be seen more as a qualified person that maybe they should take recognition of, the son of a Kshatriya, right? So forth. So this way what's happening also at the same time is Praptam Janita Bhadram Vo Gopano Rama Choditam. They say, we're here executing the orders of Krishna. We were sent here by Balaram. We wish all good for you. So they are giving a blessing to them. They're actually giving a blessing to these Brahmins. They're very quickly, they're starting to realize that their thinking is skewed. Their pride is there. Now, it's not necessarily so much conscious on their part, but it's a fact, and the fact is coming to them and causing them to speak in this way. They're actually thinking, they see the look on their faces. You're doing a yogi here, okay? It's very precise, and we've been trained in this. There are all kinds of things going on. You simple people come here singing, and and falling down on the ground. They were falling down in sattvika bhavs. Their bodies were exploding with ecstasies, and they fell on the ground in Sankirtan. And these fools, Brahmins, they couldn't recognize what it was. What is that thing? I told the other day how when we performed the Sankirtan, taking the deities and the Sringamar's ashram onto the altar after the Madhva Brahmins had done the whole puja, they saw us chanting and dancing like that. What is that? What kind of religion is that? Same thing happening in Navadvip. I mentioned it earlier, right? People in Navadvip, what, they're chanting the name like this loud at night and stuff. Where's this in the scriptures? This shouldn't be done like this. This is because they're thinking, well, there has to be kala, desha, time, place, circumstance, everything, right? They didn't understand what the dispensation of Mahaprabhu was. What it, coming as it does from Golokar, Premadhan, Harinam Sankirtan. There is the wealth of prema he's bringing through the medium. He's exporting it of Sankirtan. So it has the simplicity of prema. It has the relaxing of all the rules and so forth, which as I often say, the more there are rules, the less there's love. The more there is love, the less there's rules. That doesn't mean you should go out today. Guru Maharaj said, the more there's rules, the less there's love. So I'm not going to follow the rules. The rules aren't very important. No, don't think like that. Understand the point. Where you're going is that place. You have to understand the rules and follow them very carefully and know when to break them. That's the skill of sadhana. Skill of sadhana. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told Madhuvan Maharaj to go preach at a distance on Ekadasi, he said, sit here, eat rice, then go. But Guru Maharaj, I'll be breaking Ekadasi. That's all right. What was his power to say that? For Sankirtan, his purpose, Bhaktisiddhanta's purpose. It doesn't mean anybody said, I can do this. So no, but there's rules are made to be broken, but you have to follow them very well and understand them very well. How will you understand them if you don't even practice them? No, you have to practice. See also these cowherd boys' respect for authority. We can talk about bhakti being like revolutionary and independent and so forth. It has these qualities. Originality. People sometimes think of me as he's kind of a maverick, Tripurari Maharaj, he has all these original ideas and things. And where do they come from and so forth? I'll tell you where they come from. They don't come from my head. They don't come from a fertile intellect or imagination. Some of my disciples, they try to imitate me. They think, I got to think more originally and come up with an original point and so forth. That's not what I'm doing. The way it comes from respecting authorities. I remember once, I always had respect for the GBC. They called me in, I told the other day, who is your GBC? I didn't even understand that you were supposed to have one in those days, but I didn't have any disrespect. I came in for them. I paid my dandavat before them all. By Krishna's grace, I could understand, they had a little agenda. Anyway, then, okay, But so the cowboys, similarly, they're kind of understanding. There's something about these guys, but still, they showed all respect. I once was in Vrindavan, and a member of ISKCON, I was out of ISKCON at the time, and a member of ISKCON came and to see me, a godbrother, visit with me. And I said, you just come from Mayapur? And I said, he said, yes. I said, how did it go? The GBC have all the resolutions and all. He said, we don't care for GBC. He thought that would go over well with me. Well, it didn't. I said, see, that's the difference between you and me. I care about what the GBC does, even I'm not in this country, because Prabhupada wanted them to conduct themselves in a certain way that would be beneficial for all the devotees and themselves. He wanted that. We don't care about. No, we do care about that. And to be honest with you, some faults aside, they do a pretty good job in so many ways of organizing a big society, providing facility for so many devotees to hear and chant. You had some service there, right?
Yeah.
So we have to appreciate, show respect, but not be naive at the same time. So, and point is what? And another instance, of course, another nice story. In this regard, I was with Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj once. We were chatting, and we watched a video of Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj, Guru Maharaj speaking about Mirabai and her song. Somebody asked a question, and then he pointed out that we don't follow like Mirabai because in her songs, we don't find mention of Nanda, Yashoda, Subal, Radha, and so forth. She wants a relationship with Krishna directly. But in our songs, you find all these other important ingredients of the Braj Leela. That's the Krishna we want, not just Krishna, separate from all. So anyway, he was speaking about it like that. And then we looked at one another. We said, wow, it was really like authorized. We want to just follow the right way, right? Then he chuckled. He said, yeah, I thought we were authorized too, because at the time we were being depicted as being, disobedient. We had left this, we weren't following the GBC and so on, which is true, because at the time they had done something that we thought was inappropriate, having offended Sri Ramanuja and so forth. But still, point is that we wanted to be under somebody. We wanted to be under in the tight grip. Remember once when I was staying in Navadvip, I spent a month there once. Really, I was the only Western devotee there. I think it was the month of April one year with Guru Maharaj, and there was only a few devotees in the month. Madhu Mangal was there. He was the Kirtanier. He's an older devotee. He was blind, I think his whole life. He used to lead all the kirtans in Chaitanya Saraswati Math. Beautiful singer, mridanga player, and so forth. So I asked him, I said, Madhu, could you take me to the market to get a mridanga? Because then he would pick out a really good one, And the market is just like we're living in Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Math on the bank of the Ganga, right? The market is a stone's throw away. And we're going to a mridangawala who's making mridangas for kirtan. It's hard to get too deviated, right? That's your mission for the day. Right? I said, can you take me to the market to the mridangawala and help me pick out a mridanga? He said, let me ask Guru Maharaj's permission. And I was so inspired by that. He needed Guru Maharaj's permission to walk, 200 yards down the street to get a mridanga for a sannyasi in the mission. Taken. It's just a tight grip of his Guru Maharaj. Originality of your own. Yeah, that's desirable, right? When part of me comes out of you in these lines from time to time. An old song. Love is touching two souls. Truly you touch mine. Because part of me comes out of you in these lines from time to time. So very beautiful, nice poetry. Yes, but how that will come, it just doesn't come from churning your wheels up here with a desire to be original. It comes from being submissive, following authority, respect, anugatya, where the whole thing is anuga, to follow, not to lead and be a maverick. That happens maybe naturally. But if you look at it carefully, it's not what you think it is. Right? He or she is following very closely. And therefore some original ideas may come out, thoughts. So if you want to follow me, follow how I follow. I'm going to give me some stories to help you appreciate it. I was very, very, very completely dedicated to Prabhupada and I respect for all his authorities and so forth. I didn't leave ISKCON very easily either. It was on the authority of Sri Ramanuja's scriptural command and spirituality. I had to make such a decision and stand, with his backing, my faith, and here we all are. So follow me in terms of following, being a follower. Try to be a follower. Try to respect authorities, whether it be me, whether it be Agni, who's graced us here this month with his kirtan and so forth, and the experience that he so shares, whether it be Gorsunda, who's taking care of everything here, and have this tendency to come and respect the senior devotees. Who's senior? You don't want this idea that everyone's Everyone's a demon except for me. That devotee's bad, that devotee's bad, that devotee's bad, that's got this problem, he's got that problem. No, not like that. You got a whole lot of work to do. If you want to look for problems, I'll tell you a good place to look. Look at yourself. Look real close. Keep looking. All right? Keep looking there. It'll take you a lifetime or two or three or more to deal with all of that. Busy, right at home. Why have to look outside for someone else? Find the fault in. Krishna will protect you. Krishna will protect you. He'll give you good guidance. Work on yourself. And try to do. That's the fruit of knowing, like we were saying the other day. The fruit of knowing is doing. And doing humble service, carrying out the order of our Guru Prabhupada and so forth. Look at Bhaktisiddhanta. What a follower he was of Bhakti Vinod. He was completely preoccupied, practically, well, largely preoccupied with printing the works of Bhakti Vinod. He wrote like 100 books, Bhakti Vinod. He had the presses going, print the works of Bhakti Vinod, give him to the world. Right? And we got him and Bhakti Vinod and his followers and so forth. So anyway, here the boys, they showed respect to the Brahmins, but as they showed respect, the Brahmins did not really notice them. They were there, but they just ignored them. So they perceiving this, and so they say, may you be blessed. They realized these guys are have an offense. They could understand they have an offensive attitude towards Ram and Krishna. See how they deal with us. Another story in this regard from Chaitanya Charitamrita. What is the story? You can follow. See, you have to follow first. Miniketana Ramdas came to the house of Krishnadas Kaviraj's brother, where the Kaviraj was staying. He wasn't known as Kaviraj at that time. Kaviraj, the king of the poets, right? Humbly living in the house of his brother, there was a Sankirtan festival. And Miniketana Ramdas came, one of the followers of Nityananda Prabhu. He was carrying a flute. He would pop people on the head when they paid respect to him, like that. And tears were pouring out of his eyes, so much so that if you looked at him, tears would pour out of your eyes. But when he came in the house, although many people respected him, the Brahmin who was doing the puja on behalf of his brother in the house, he kept going on with the puja. He didn't defer to Miniketana Ramdas as he should have. And so Krishnadas could understand, this is the kind of person that my brother has got doing the worship here. Therefore, I understand my brother does not have the proper respect for Nityananda Prabhu, because Miniketana Ramdas is one of his gopas. And when he understood, that Miniketana Ramdas is being offended, he understood that Nityananda Prabhu was being offended. And then what did he do? He left the house. Where he became homeless. I'm not staying in this house another minute. He just went out. He slept on the roadside that night, and Nityananda Prabhu came with Miniketana Ramdas and others in a dream, dressed like coward boys, and told him, go to Vrindavan, all your desires will be fulfilled. There he went, wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita, Govinda Lilamrita, became the Krishnadas Kaviraj, Swami Mahashai Ki Jai. So, so they could detect, like Krishnadas said, they could detect these Brahmins don't have respect for Krishna and Balaram. They weren't demanding respect for themselves. Hey, we're Krishna's representatives here. You're not respecting us. Instead, they could detect they don't have respect, and therefore they said, God bless you. God bless you. Oh my God. Do you realize what? May God bless you. Yeah. This automatically came from them. Well, and of course, because they said that, you see in the end, the whole thing reversed. And the Brahmins became worshippers of their wives. for their bhakti. Now it unfolds in so many ways, but this is why. This is why it happened. Because those boys said, may you be blessed. Such as the Vaishnava. Like Nityananda Prabhu, right? Who wanted the Jagai Madai to be blessed. The compassion of the devotee. He is the other self of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Stops Mahaprabhu from destroying them altogether in his wrath because of their offense to Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu says, give them a blessing. So the boys are saying like this, may you be blessed. Because that well-wishing of these, who are they? There's no big ritual going on here, big fancy thing, you got to learn all this. It's real simple. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And they were so happy that their bodies were exploding, right, in ecstasy. And they just said, may God help you. And that made it possible, that blessing, for them to overcome their offense, to turn their whole lives around and become Vaishnavas themselves. Vaishnav Kripa. Good job. Incredible. Then it says what? Gash charayanto abidura oranam ramatuto go lasato bubukshito tayodvija oranam artinodari shadha tayo yachata dharma vittamaha. So they say, so they go on, they explain themselves a little bit. The Brahmins really aren't saying anything, but in case they wonder, why are they asking for food? You seem to have great respect for them. You call yourselves servants of them, following the order of Ram. If they're so worshipable, the Brahmins are thinking, why are they asking us for food? These are their thoughts that can be understood by the Gopas. So they give a simple response. Gash charayanto abidura oranam. They're grazing cows nearby. Right? It's not far from here. They're the Ram and Achyuta. Achyuta is another name for Krishna. They're grazing cows nearby here. The implication is grazing, taking care of cows is nonstop. Right? If you want to clean up after the cows, well, it never ends. Right? And milk the cows, it never ends. There's a short period, it slows down, and then again, milk at night, in the morning. No, morning, night, morning, night. Clean up, again, clean up. So it's they keep one very busy. Keep you out of trouble. They have cows. They keep you out, no time for anything else. Right? They're the deities also. Deities. So all the gods are present in them. Right? They're pleased. Govind is pleased. So they say, well, they're nearby herding cows, and that takes some effort, and it's nonstop. And so, we're far from home. That's why they're hungry. Common sense. They're supposed to be Brahmins, but they were a little intuit that. They start to get a little cynical here, But again, they're not naive. They say Ramachuto Valasito Bubukshito, that they're hungry, and dear Drija, Tayor Drija Odanam, Artinodiri. So, to put it in a sense, Ram and Achyuta are near, tending cows. They're hungry, and want you to give them some food, some of your food. Therefore, O Drijas and Dharma Vittama, best knowers of Dharma,
Shraddha chayo yachata. If you have faith in them, then give them some food. So very nice what they're saying here. First of all, as we know, Vaishnavism takes us beyond varnashram and caste and so forth, right? So the Brahmins are looking at them, these are talented people. These are Brahmins, these are Vaishyas. If someone asking for food, we're in the middle of a sacrifice, they even know what we're doing on behalf of their Ram and Krishna. So these boys, they refer to Krishna by the name Achyutya. Achyutya. What is the implication here? Why that name here? Achyutya means infallible, right? But let me ask you a question. If someone from Varna Ashram asks you, what is your gotra? What will you say? Gotra means your lineage, your family lineage. So we may know something about you. What is your gotra? What is the Vaishnava response? Achyutya gotra. This is I am from Achyutya gotra. That is the proper response. That means we're in another category altogether here. We've got a whole new lineage, a new body, a new family, a new father and mother. We're now friends of Krishna. We're Achyutya gotra. We're not in any varnashram gotra consideration. They said, when you come to how will you transcend your prarabdha karma? It's said that bhakti can destroy the prarabdha karma. Well, prarabdha karma includes who your father and mother are. How are you going to change that? How are you going to change the fact that you've got such and so and so and so and so as your father and mother in this life? Therefore, I say to you, what is this nonsense that bhakti can destroy prarabdha karma? Gyan can destroy karma because karma is rooted in avidya, ignorance. That's the root. So knowledge means knowledge of the self, which is transcendental to the body-mind complex. With the ingress of knowledge, then you can uproot the ignorance at the foundation. But the result of that ignorance that's already bearing fruit, well, you can't do anything about that. That has to play itself out. And then when you die, enter into Brahman, mukti. And you bhaktas come and tell us, that the prarabdha karma, which is the manifest karma, can be done away with by bhakti. How are you going to change who your father and mother are? Well, we have the answer, right? From sadhana bhakti to bhava bhakti. From bhava bhakti, you'll get a new body. You get a spiritual body, and a spiritual father, and a spiritual mother, and the whole family. And you'll be living in this world, in your perfected sadhaka deha, and living internally in your siddha rupa with a new father, a new mother, eternal father and mother. You can start to think, I'll have Nanda as my father, Soda as my mother. It's the broader idea. They are the father and mother of all the gopas, right? Or Vrishabhanu Maharaj and Pitida. Further details will come as an extension of your own bhava. They're part of your own bhava. Try to understand. So Achyuta Gotra, they're more or less saying, we're from the Achyuta Gotra, if you wanted to know what our position is, looking at us down your nose as you are, simple cowherds. We're from Achyuta Gotra, that's our position. Dvijas. Now they're starting to become a little sarcastic here. Dvijas. Dvijas, what they mean to say here is, yeah, you're Dvijas. Yeah, you're Dvijas. You've been born by two people, a mother and a father. That's about as Dvija as you are. Dvija means twice. It means first twice born. Ja means birth. Dvija, twice born.
birds are called dvijas. Why? Because they have two births. One birth comes out as the egg. Second birth, the egg cracks and you come out of that. They're called dvijas. So Brahmins are called dvijas because they have two births, right? You get a birth from a mother and father, and then you get a birth from Diksha in the Varnashram. But the cowards are more or less saying, oh, dvijas, kind of on the side. You're only dvijas because you've got a father and mother who got two. Took two to have, but you're not. Your twice-born status, which should make you Dharma Vittama, the great, perfect knowers of Dharma should manifest. But we're seeing here, it's just not the case. Oh, they say, please, can you give food to Ram and Krishna if you have faith in them? Shraddha. You understand? What did Krishna say in Gita? Sarvadharma pratyaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Have faith in me. Take shelter of me, and you can be freed from Varnashram. He told Uddhava, faith in bhakti. Relative to the measure of one's faith in bhakti, one has no obligation to Varnashram Dharma. One has understood the essence of one is Dharma, Vittamaha. That's the word used here. What they're saying is, really, gentlemen, Shraddha and Ram and Krishna, that's Dharma Vittamaha. If you have faith in them, oh, those who are perfect in Dharma, then you'll give them some food. Right? They're teaching them something about bhakti. You think yourself Dharma Vittama, but really, if you have faith in Krishna and take advantage of the opportunity to serve them some rice, then you will be Dharma Vittama. Then you will transcend your twice-born status altogether. You'll be thrice-born. Become Vaishnavas. So in their innocence, you see, they're not naive. They also have all spiritual intelligence. They can feel these Brahmins, their thoughts and so forth. They're teaching them. But, and here you are, involved in these complicated rituals, all dressed up. Just wrap yourself in a gamsha and chant Hare Krishna. It's so simple. All you have to do is have faith in bhakti. Shadavan Janahe, Shadavan Janahe. Nityananda Prabhu has opened a marketplace. Was that song? What's the other one? Dvayalar Gita?
Yeah.
Shadavan Janahe. He opened a marketplace, the holy name, and he's selling the holy name only for faith in the holy name. And faith means Sharanagati. Faith is active. It's the animating principle. Faith and bhakti should show up in doing. It's a kind of knowing that results in doing, right? Serving. So they said, oh, if you want to, really think, if you want to be Dharma Vittamaha, what is Dharma? What is the best knower of Dharma? One who knows how to please Hari, samsiddhi, haritoshanam, and he's hungry. And they're thinking, the Brahmins, if he's God, why is he hungry? He's God, why would he be hungry? They're really clueless, is the point here. So, Dikshaya Pashu Samstaya Shrotamanascha Saptamaha Anyatra Dikshayasyapi Nanam Vashnam Hidushati. Now, we're running out of time here. I'll be a little briefer here, but so what they say, the coward boys they say, except during the interval between the initiation and the actual sacrifice itself, O most pure Brahmanas, it's not contaminating even for the initiated to partake of food in such sacrifices. So they didn't study all the Veda and like these Brahmins and all the details of the ritual and so forth, but they knew. They had inherent knowledge, because when you attain such a position
in bhakti as an associate of Bhagavan. All that you could have attained through yoga, through varnashram execution, penances, giving and charity, it's all there. All that fruit comes to you, plus so much more. So they have all the mystic powers. They have inherent in them. They're more, what it's said, what? If you chant Krishna's name, then you know all the Vedas. You can say, well, I'm chanting Krishna's name. I don't even know one of the Vedas. No, it means this is the whole purpose of the Vedas. The whole properly understood, the whole purpose of the Vedas is to serve Krishna. And this is a most beautiful way of serving him, especially in Kali Yuga, to sing his name. So if we're singing his name, you must know all the Vedas. If you know what the Vedas are for, what do you need to know the rest of it for? You cut to the chase here. You may not know all those details, but you know what, in essence, what they're saying. If you know the essence of the Vedas, then you know everything, right? Without knowing all the details. But as with that faith you go on performing Nam Sankirtan, then inherently within you, all this will come. And so in a situation like this, it comes out. They knew that at the time they arrived, when they were asking for food, was an appropriate time according to how that particular sacrifice was conducted. If between the time of the initiation, relative to the sacrifice, and the sacrifice itself, what is the detail? That during the interval between these two, it's not inappropriate, according to the ritual, according to the Veda, to give food. So they knew the time for taking, it's like we said the other day, Nanda Maharaj knew when to do Ekadasi better than the attendants of Varuna who arrested him, thinking that he violated it. Because he bathed in the Jamuna before the sun came up. But that prohibition was overridden, and he understood it because that was the time for breaking the Ekadasi, which was more important. You do that right. So that was another example. So the point is that all this knowledge is inherent in them. So they are Dharma Vittama in the true, full sense of the term. They pointed out to these fellows, iti te bhagavad yachnam shinvatopi na shushushu shudrasya bhurikarmano valisha buddha mind. But Shukadev cuts in, he says, but the Brahmins heard this, but they paid no heed. They were full of petty desires, entangled in elaborate rituals, presuming themselves to be advanced in Vedic learning. They are actually inexperienced fools. What's happening here is Sukadeva is getting upset with them. He sees how these coward boys have come before them so beautifully, singing the names of Ram and Krishna, paying dandavats before them, understanding that they have some offensive mentality, blessing them. And these guys just go on ignoring them. And Sukadev's getting pissed off. He's getting angry with them. He's taking exception to this. So in a couple of verses, he expresses himself as such. He says, then he goes on, he says, Desha Kala Prataddravyam Mantra Tatra Bijoganya, so on and so forth. He says, although the ingredients of the sacrificial performance, the place, the time, the particular paraphernalia, the mantras, the rituals, the priests, the fires, the demigods, the performance of offerings, and as yet the unseen beneficial result are all simply aspects of Krishna's opulence. That's what they are. The Brahmins saw Lord Krishna as an ordinary human being. Abhajanati mamudha manusham tanamashrika, Gita says. What an unfortunate group of people. Because of their perverted intelligence, they failed to recognize he was the absolute truth.
whom material senses cannot ordinarily perceive. They use the name Adhoksaja here. He's all these things in the sacrifice. You're doing them all. You're very expert in the details of them, but you cannot see that they are all, if you put them all together, Krishna will appear. He's the time, he is the place, he is the sacrifice itself, he is the ingredients, he is the mantra, and so on. He's Yajnamai Vishnu, at least Vishnu will appear. And he uses the epithet Adhoksaja, who cannot be seen with material senses. Right? You have to transcend the material senses to see him. He's everywhere. He's right before your eyes. You think you're expert at the yogi and you cannot see him. And these boys, what is their position? They're recognizing him, who to Brahma was like astounded. He said, he's Yagyabhuk. He's the enjoyer of all sacrifice. And he's sitting in a picnic with his friends. We're taking food out of their mouths and putting it in his mouth and vice versa. This is the Yagyabhuk. In Brahmaloka, we feed him lights and offerings, sacrifice with ghee and everything. I mean, it doesn't seem to really eat, but we do all this stuff. Here he's actually eating. And he's even taking food from their mouths and putting it, that's pretty good. Yeah, you taste it too. What manifestation of God is this? This is the Yagyabhuk, he acting like this. This is who the cowboys are associated with. These persons cannot even find him in the sacrifice. Right? He's at Adhoksaja. He can't be seen by such sacrifices unto themselves. So somehow they be connected with bhakti, and with varnashram is properly understood as worshipful toward the Vaishnavas and so forth. Right? They're not in this position. So nati yad om iti prochur na neti chaparantapa gopa nirasa patyeta tatochu Krishna Ramayo. When the Brahmins failed to reply, even a simple yes or no, they just stood there, just ignored them. O chastiser of enemy, he's talking to Parikshit Maharaj. Parantapa, he says, I'm angry. You should be too. God, he said, if you were in charge, you'd take them to task, wouldn't you? That Parikshit, of course, did it. That's the whole Bhagavatam, right? He chastised the Brahmin. He didn't hesitate to chastise the Brahmin. In that instance, it seemed to be a mistake, but we see it was arranged by Krishna. Meanwhile, of course, prior to that, right, he went out in Kali looking to establish Dharma. This is his position, right? He met the bull standing on 3 legs. Chastised Kali. Kali couldn't come into his kingdom. This is Parikshit Maharaj. So Sukadeva is saying, you should be angry too. This is terrible how they're disrespecting these cowherd boys, and by extension, Ram and Krishna. So, O chastiser of the enemy, the cowherd boys returned then, disappointed. They came back to Krishna and Ram and reported what had happened. So to conclude, I mean, basically, the cowherd boys encountered a mountain of pride. And that mountain was insensitive to the volcanic, emotional explosion of their cowherds' sattvic bhavs in ecstasy, that had the lava of which had the capacity to turn their ritual into rubble. Basically, they couldn't understand. But they blessed them nonetheless. And eventually they'll come around. They'll understand by the grace of these cowherd boys. And now we'll see also how the wives of the Brahmins interacted with these boys. How beautiful that is. How different and how appropriate. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
Haribo.
Panchakalpaturusya Patitanam Vaishnavevanam Anantakoti
Vaishnavrindo ki jai. Gaur Premanand.
Yo, Srila Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Mm.